What's up, guys? Tim Little, Matt Allen. Welcome back to Tactical Bassin, and welcome back to another episode of our 2024 Holiday Buyer's Guide series. Today, we're talking casting reels.
We are so pumped to have arrived at the Baitcasters. For those of you that have been following along, we're doing new gear reviews every single day, 7 days a week. Yesterday was spinning reels, and we just keep right on trucking. So reels are on sale right now. Tackle Warehouse is not doing a specific Black Friday video. They're doing a Black November, and it's in sections. So 2 of those have already passed. The rod sales have already happened. Some of the baits have already happened. Right now, reels and a handful of other things are on sale. So even though we did those, $100 combos, $200 combos, all those videos, we're coming back now and talking specifically about reels to help you guys understand the nuances and the differences between them so you can make educated decisions, 1, during the sales, 2, around the holidays, and just to give you some general information.
Yeah, let's go. So unlike the, hopefully you guys got to see the spinning reel video we just shot, there's some more players in the casting reel world.
For sure.
Let's go ahead and start off with this guy right here. Is that all right? I'll do this. And
Yeah.
Okay. This is a newer company. 7 Reels came out, a couple years ago. They came out with this guy right here. This is the GF. This is a reel. It's not an entry-level price reel, but it's considerably cheaper than some of these reels.
Oh yeah.
But it has an external braking system on it. And what Matt and I have noticed about fishing this guy is it's comfortable in the hand, but the castability. You can send this thing and make accurate adjustments. Sometimes when reel manufacturers put the little braking system on the outside, it doesn't really do anything.
You go low price points?
You go from 0
like,
to all the way locked down, and you're still
Nothing.
blowing your reel up. So this one is actually very accurate. You can make little slight adjustments depending on if you're throwing into the wind, or maybe you're throwing a spinner bait or a bait that spirals like a glide bait, like an S-Waver 168, how it always spirals and catches that wind and then blows your reel up. But this guy right here is a good little reel. Next up, we got a reel from Lose. This is the Speed Spool LFS KVD. We were turned on to this reel a couple years ago, and put it through the ringer as well. And one thing that we want to emphasize in all of our recommendations is durability, right? We know that you guys work hard for your money, and we don't want you to blow it or waste it on a reel that after a season or 2 you have to throw in the trash because it's literally junk.
Right.
So everything that we're recommended, we have put through the test at least for a season or 2, and it still feels good, right? It doesn't feel like you got sand or just grinding gears or anything in there. So, but this guy right there, that KVD by Lose, Lose has a ton of reels on the market. This one is a standout that we've played with and really, really like that. And then this guy right here, this is the Concept C2 by 13 Fishing. You guys have probably seen this reel, not only in this year's Buyer's Guide, but probably the last few.
Yeah.
Because it is one of the only reels that competes at that higher price point, but it doesn't break the bank as far as weight. It is one of the lightest reels out of all these reels on the deck here, and it doesn't...
It's like half the price of the others.
Correct. I think it's like 5 ounces,
Mid-twos,
5.5 ounces, something like that. But both Matt and I have fished a ton of these through the last 2 or 3 years and been really, really impressed. So if you're a guy that likes to throw lighter casting setups, lighter bait casting setups, and you want to put a light bait caster on that nice light rod you purchased, that guy is a winner.
All right, next up, we're going to jump over. So those were 3 different reels from 3 different brands. Now, this is Abu Garcia, and there's 5 reels here that we're going to talk about. It's 3 standard reels, 2 bait finesse reels. Let's go with the standard reels first. So the first one is the Max Pro. Budget-friendly rod, super affordable.
Reel.
And wow, reel. Wow, I'm off to a strong start right now. This reel stands out amongst its peers because of the price and what you get for that price, and particularly its durability. It's just a reel that takes a beating and just keeps on going. And for that reason, it stands out. You know, external adjustments. It's got a very refined feel to it, and over time it keeps that feel. And in its price point, that's a major deal. Next up, we've got the Revo SX HS LP. This reel is a standout. We've jumped up into the Revo line now, but this reel is a standout because it has an insanely strong drag. 25 pounds of drag in this thing. It is an absolute workhorse, and it's affordable. So for the guy who's not wanting to break the bank, but wants to frog, flip, small glide baits, things of that nature, you can do so much of that with this reel. Next one is the Inshore. This has been a really fun reel. This is the Revo Inshore. This one, I got my hands on one, and I mean, I have done everything I can to beat this thing to death, and it has just taken the beating. So it's an inshore rated reel. So saltwater is totally okay, but it shines in freshwater too. So here's the deal. It's got this oversized handle on it, right? So think swim bait fishing, but not giant swim baits. So not throwing a Huddleston, but throwing glide baits, throwing things where you want to be twitchy and aggressive and working and popping those baits. And you don't need a huge line capacity, but you still need a lot of torque and a lot of power. It shines for that. And then the stopping power in this drag is insane. What I've been doing with this thing is just for fun. I love inshore fishing. We've been just geeking out on that for the last year and a half or so. And I love striper fishing here in Tennessee. I have been striper fishing a bunch, and we were just talking, I love to completely lock the drag on this thing. And when I hit those striper, I'm running a 30-pound leader, 65-pound braid, 30-pound leader. And when I crack them, everything just completely locks up. And instead of letting them run like normal, I just start grinding on that handle, just manhandle, just like fist to fist with these stripers, just doing battle. It has been so much fun with that reel. So that's just 3 standouts in that Abu line. Now on the bait finesse side, there's 2 that really stand out. They're complete opposite ends of the spectrum. You got the Revo X BFS, which is a budget friendly reel, like $149 give or take. But keep in mind, all of these are on sale right now. So you're going to do better than normal. Also, we're going to link every single one of these in the video description in the exact order we're talking about. And we'll put links to Tackle Warehouse for all of them. If there's room, we'll give you our favorite speeds. I don't know if there's going to be room. That's a lot of reels, but we'll see. But that way you don't have to take notes, try and remember which one that one was. That'll all be in the description for you. Now the Revo X BFS it's a full framed reel, but the spool is completely different, and it throws those ultralight baits really well for its price. This is the lowest price bait finesse reel we found that really functions, and it's been a lot of fun to fish with. Then at the other end of the spectrum, we have the Zillion LTX bait finesse reel, and this guy, it's smooth. This has become one of my, and I think one of yours too, favorite bait finesse reels. The thing about this reel is it leans hard to the Americanized bait finesse. And what I mean is, we've talked about this throughout the Buyer's Guide series. There's been this split in bait finesse where you have that JDM style that's ultra light baits, tiny lines, short little casts, creek fishing, that sort of thing. Small water, small fish, very specialized. But there's this other end of bait finesse that has exploded in the US, which is basically the guy who is sending it. Yeah. The guy who's used to taking a 2.8 Kitech on a spinning rod and just sending that thing, and now they want to use a baitcaster, but it's still that same fishing style, right? Just full send, dumping that spool, winding out in open water. That Americanized bait finesse has really become a thing. And that Zenon is a reel that, it's a pricey reel, you'll pay for it, but I mean, you can send a bait, 16th ounce, 8th ounce, and just let them rip. So if you're that guy who wants to use a baitcaster rather than a spinning, but you still want that familiar you know, dumping a reel, laying a bait way out there, it's fantastic for that.
That zillion, I first started fishing it this year. I don't remember. Everything's running together. But I was up north fishing for smallmouth, and I was throwing a spy bait on it. I had it paired up with a cash and rod, and I was basically spooling that thing. But I was sending that spy bait so far, and then it had the nice clicker drag. You know, it's clicking, but being able to send a spy bait or an 1/8 ounce Ned rig or a 16th ounce Texas rig and truly being able to cast it farther than you can with your favorite hair jig rod or your favorite spy bait rod. Yep. It's a different world, and it's a lot of fun. All right, over here we have the Daiwa family. A lot of these reels you've probably seen in the last few buyer's guides, yeah. Starting at $100 all the way up to $500. So what I'm gonna do, kind of walk you through, not too in-depth, but just kind of in order from budget all the way up to some of the most expensive bait casters on the market. These things are sweet too, but and then we got some bait finesse. So this guy right here, this is the Daiwa, this is the CC80, and this is a reel. I'm always just spinning reels just to feel the handle. This is a reel that we've had in the buyer's guides for the last few years, and it is truly a workhorse. So if you're a guy that's getting his first bait caster, or a guy that's getting his, you know, that just trying to fill out an arsenal, this guy is a true workhorse. Okay, it's durable. Again, we don't want to recommend reels that you're gonna have to put in the trash can after a year or two. Right. And this guy has definitely lived up to the expectations. Again, external braking system. Most of these reels that we're going to talk about have that. That one actually works. Coming up the price point, this is the CA80. Man, that actually feels really good too. Like, nice. It's again, it's just one of those things. You guys ever go to like tackle shops and just grab a reel and just spin the handle? You want to, yeah. Anyways,
every time you get a chance.
Yep. The CA80, a little step up in price point. One thing about this reel, it's again castability. The distance of casting, that one can really send a bait. And then this guy right here, this is the Fuego. A few years ago, they reintroduced the Fuego. I remember way back when, I mean, decade or two ago, a long time ago, the Fuego was a high-end spinning reel for Daiwa, but they came back out with the Fuego. They have the Fuego rods as well. But this guy right there, again, has that, that's that mag force drag or adjustment on the outside, the braking system on the outside. That is an awesome little reel. And how about this guy? Now we're getting into the Tatula line. This is the Tatula SVTW70. 70 size reel, so smaller in the hand, but now you're really getting it up into that core kind of Daiwa reel, the core price point, maybe your tournament angler or your everyday angler, weekend warrior, something like that. This is really that kind of bread and butter moving on up in their line. But that Tatula, again, has that T-wing. So what that does, that line guide, when you hit that thumb release, drops that down, opens that line guide to allow that line come off that spool easier, less resistance, and then again, external clicker system out here on the brake system. But that's a workhorse of a reel. Even though it's a 70 size, super smooth, and you don't necessarily just have to finesse fish it. You can close quarters, flipping, pitching, light Senkos, light Texas rigs, that sort of stuff. This reel works really well for that.
Can I jump in for a second?
Yeah.
Both that one and the Fuego, both of these, about the last year and a half, I realized, I don't know when I realized, but I had a day where I was cast into the wind with square bills, and I noticed how it started with the Fuego, and I noticed how well that thing threw light baits into that wind. And then I went to that 70, and I was totally impressed by that thing. You can dial that thing in, and you can take those really light baits, and you're not, winding up and trying to send it. You're just letting it rip, but it casts that small stuff so well for a traditional bait caster.
Yeah, next up we have the Zillion. This is the SVTW, again, T-wing. SV is their braking system, their magnetic braking system. This reel kind of for years, or at least as long as it's been out, that Shimano, that metanium MGL was my go-to bait casting reel for everyday use because of its casting distance and smoothness. Daiwa came out with this guy a couple years ago, and this rivals it. This has a ton of, at least out here on the Tennessee River when I'm throwing hair jigs or heavier baits, I can send a bait with this guy. And then it's got enough drag to power fish with. It's a super smooth. It can be a finesse reel if you need it, but it can be a power reel too. That guy is awesome at its, I mean, we're talking mid threes, I believe now, but it's a really good reel and it will work well on a lot of your different types or styles of bait casting rods, whether it's finesse or true reaction power fishing. All right, last but not least, then we'll get into some bait finesse stuff. This is the Steez CT SV TW. It's a mouthful, but guys, those of you guys who have watched the channel for a long time know that this is my top water reel. With this specific reel, and well, it doesn't really matter about the rod, but like a shower bows, like a SB 105 or a Giant Dog X, something like that, I can cast that thing so far. And that's super important, especially when you're offshore chasing fish over bait, or you get busting fish. They always seem to bust just outside of your casting distance. This reel, now, is a pricey reel.
Yeah, hold on. This is my favorite thing to pick on Tim about. Tim, how much does your topwater reel cost?
It's like $700.
It's my favorite thing to abuse him about.
But it works.
It does.
Again, it's, and I was fishing this reel. I was actually fishing this reel hard last week, and I was playing around with different topwaters because that SB 105, I don't know if it's the weight transfer system or the way it's weighted, you can cast it a long way. So I was literally going click by click to see how far I could send it before I blew up the reel. And so when you get into these higher priced reels, like we talked a little bit earlier, the braking systems, they actually work, right?
Right.
Some of that cheaper stuff, you turn it from 0 to all the way on, it doesn't really make a difference, but these guys really work. Super light, super smooth. You know, this could be your favorite bait casting Texas rig rod, or your weightless Senko rod, Nico rig rod reel, or it can be like mine, my favorite topwater reel. Okay, two more for you. Got two more bait finesse reels. Let's talk about, we'll talk about the Tatula first. This is the Tatula BF TW70, 70 size reel. We talked about this in, I don't know, yesterday or the day before. One of those videos. This is more of the Americanized bait finesse reels. This is one that you're gonna rear back and send it. You know, we talked about the split between the JDM true bait finesse style and then the US kind of standard, want to throw your lighter baits on bait finesse gear. This reel can send it. Doesn't break the bank. It is kind of that 70 size in the hand, really comfortable. But again, this is a reel that you can throw your favorite Ned rig on, your favorite drop shot on. You don't have to throw a spinning rod. And seems like these days with the jig and minnow and strolling and all that stuff, people are, you know, we've taught the last couple of years, bait finesse takes away the spinning rods. Now we're getting more spinning rods because of the strolling.
Strolling saved spinning rods.
Anything, yeah, besides strolling, these new bait finesse reels are awesome. I mean, we're putting 5 to 10 pound braid on there, which has a tiny diameter, super thin, super small, and you can send your favorite finesse baits, spy baits, hair jigs, Ned rigs, all that stuff way farther than you could with a spinner rod. And then last but not least, this is the PX BF TW. Basically, Daiwa brought over the Pixie reels a long
way before their time.
Long time ago, and the US market wasn't ready for it. We didn't even know what bait finesse was. It's newer here in the States, but it's not new over in Japan. They've been doing it way longer, and like I said, they brought it over many years ago, and it just didn't take off. Well, now they brought it back over, and this thing is sweet. This is the reel that I use on a 7.2 medium light with like an 1/8 ounce guppy head with my favorite 2.8 size swim bait. and I'm just chucking and winding. I mean, I can't tell you how many giant smallmouth I've caught on this reel because I can send that, especially in clear water, I can send that swim bait so much farther than I can with a spinning rod. And then it's that same muscle memory. It doesn't matter if you're throwing a 2.8 size swim bait or an 8-inch Huddleston, right? It's that same, when they eat it, you jack them on that bait casting gear. You have so much control, so much power. It's a lot of fun. So if you haven't played around with the bait finesse reels at all, you definitely should check them out.
All right, we've arrived at Shimano. Buckle up, we're gonna be here a while. No, I'm kidding. So if you guys watched yesterday's video, we were talking about those families in the Shimano line and in the Daiwa line. And today with Baitcasters, there's less of that, right? It's more like specific standouts as you work your way up the price points that really shine for different things, but there's big differences between them as you go. When we get back to Shimano, all of a sudden we've now fallen back into that family thing, which is really cool. So there's quite a few reels here. We're going from lowest price to highest price, and then a couple bait finesse reels as well. But it's two families, and the way we're going to divide these up is 150 size reels. I'll call those full frame, even though there are 200 size reels too, right? But full framed reels, full size reels, and then we've got the 70 size spools, and there's big differences between them. So the 70s can wind up so fast when you want to throw stuff, whether that's that you just want to make a little pitch with a bait, or you want to take a lightweight bait and send it across distance. Either way, that thing's ability to start up and speed up really quickly doesn't require so much force from you. If you want to take a full framed reel and really send a bait, I mean, you have to wind up and send it. Whereas a 70, where it's going to kick up quicker on its own, you just wind back and let her go, and it's sail in the breeze. So that's the big difference as you move between a 70 and a 150 size reel. The other big thing that we'll see with Shimano is those MGL spools and their ability to wind up super fast at any size. But let's start with the 150 size, and we'll work our way through these. So the first one is the SLX 150, the SLX-A. That is just that baseline phenomenal reel. You know, you're right at $100, and there's really not more that you could ask at $100. It is a very basic but incredibly consistent reel. It was recently revamped. They brought even more technology to it and didn't change the price. I mean, you can't argue with that. Stepping up from there, next step, just one step, we go to SLX XT, move up like $20, and the big difference is that you get that external cast control. That's the big difference that's going to happen there, which is a really big difference. If it depends what you're throwing, right? If you need one reel to do it all and $100 is your price point, an SLX-A is going to get it done. But if you've got the wiggle room, if it's in your budget, that external adjustability, you know, you come around a corner into the wind, quick adjustment, you keep right on going, no issues. Jumping up from there in the 150 size reels, the next place that we see a big leap is that Corrado 150. When you get to that Corrado 150, you've got an MGL spool in there, and it makes all the difference. The Corrado 150 casts insanely far. It's not a super expensive reel. It's a mid-priced reel that casts like reels that are hundreds of dollars more. It's amazing. And if you've been following us through the guides, you've heard us talk about how Tim and I have been on this kick with distance because of our home fishery, where bass go super shallow. We can't even reach them with the boat, and we need to be able to cast really far distances to get to those fish. So we've really become in tune with casting distance, and those MGL spools are just so hard to beat. And I mean, when we're talking about outfitting a boat, right, and you need a handful of reels, you can do that at $400 a pop, but you can also come in at a Corrado 150 price point and you're getting double the reels, right? So huge difference. From there, the next real standout to me is the Bantam. The Bantam MGL, that is the power. That's the hammer, right? Yeah, if you are flipping if you are punching, if you are throwing big crankbaits, if you're throwing
chatterbaits,
swim baits that don't need a ton of line capacity, glide baits, that sort of thing, that reel is amazing. It's incredibly smooth, has a ton of power. And one thing that I'll say is there's reels that have stopping power, right? Like lock the drag and stop them. But there's reels that are that and they're refined. And that is what a bantam is. So under all that load, a fish bulldogging, the bantam is still smooth to crank against them. That's what I mean by power. It's on a different level. And then from there, we jump up to that metanium MGL, which day in and day out is my reel. If you'd gone back 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, all through those generations, the Corrado was my daily reel, right? Through the generations. The metanium is now my daily reel, and it's, every year I add more metanium MGLs, and it's, sometimes I've got them on rods that cost so much more than the reel, it's not even funny. Sometimes I put metaniums on fairly inexpensive rods, but they do a very specific task, and I want the distance that I can get out of that reel. It's a spend, it's in the 400s, but if you can afford it, if that is in your wheelhouse, that is a reel that it's hard for me to put my finger on another reel and say that I've been happier. I really like that reel. Now let's jump down to those 70 size reels, okay? This is where we're going to see that faster startup speed, and you can use that in a lot of finesse situations, but you can also use it power fishing just when you don't need tons of distance. Flipping is one of those things where flipping takes no line. You can do that on a 70. I chatterbait on a 70 a lot because a lot of times, there's times where we're sending a chatterbait and an MGL spool will do that. But there's a lot of times of the chatterbait that you're around cover and you're just short, quick casts, and it's so good at that stuff. So working our way up these reels, we've got that SLX 70, which has that MGL spool in it. And for its price, that reel is such a standout. It's incredible the distance that we can get out of that thing. And we've beat that dead horse in other videos in this series, so I won't do it again. But it stands out so far. It's crazy. The next one up from there is that Corrado 70 MGL. So one big leap up into that next product category. Same thing, when you increase that spend, just like with the spinning rods or spinning reels, you know what you're going to get. You already know what the feel is going to be like. You already know what the castability is going to be like. It's just getting that much more refined as you increase the spend. From there, we jump up to the Aldebaran. Now, the Aldebaran is actually a 50, not a 70. And this is the most finessey of the bunch. The Aldebaran, for about the last year, I almost feel like we've overlooked the Aldebaran a little bit in some of our content, and it's just because of the timing of where we've been and when we've been there. But the Aldebaran is one of our favorite reels of all time. When it comes to a high-end, super finessey, micro jigs, little tiny stuff, small top waters, I used to crank on one. I have destroyed.
I was gonna say, we have buddies that frog fish on them. It's not necessarily a finesse reel.
Right.
It's super light. Out of all these reels, I talked about this guy earlier on, the Concept C2. That is like one of the lightest.
Nothing. It feels like a toy.
Yeah.
It really does. It's really an amazing reel. And then from there is one that is a total standout. So this is the Metanium DCA 70. This 70 size Metanium, the last few years I had sort of gotten away from the DCs. We used to throw DCs a lot, but it's the casting distance thing, right? The MGL spools can reach farther than the DCs. DCs are great at, you dial them in and it's almost like there's nothing you can do wrong, right? You just cast and cast and cast. They just don't backlash. But you give up a little distance. But for whatever reason, probably because it's a 70 size spool, this is like the perfect balance of all of it. It is so comfortable to fish with, so much ease in the casting, but you can still wind up and quite literally empty the entire spool. And it's not because it's a small spool, it's because you can send that bait off the horizon. It is so much fun to fish with. This spring, I went on a trip north for almost a month, and just to find out, the dark sleeper, one of our favorite baits to throw up north, I throw on an Aldebaran. And this year I took my Aldebaran off and I left it at home, and I put this metanium DC on so that I would be forced to really put it to the test. And I had it for a month, and it was incredible. Absolutely incredible. That's when I fell in love with it. And then we've got two more. Let's talk bait finesse again. We have the Corrado BFS, which is your mid-priced reel. And that is the reel that really kicked bait finesse off in the US. It was not the first bait finesse reel in the US. Like we talked about, the Pixie was here long before and then left again. There were others, but the timing was right. And most importantly, the price was right. Bait finesse was such an expensive enthusiast hobby in the past. But when the Corrado BFS landed in the US, now you were talking about an affordable reel that anyone could pick up, and you could experience bait finesse without breaking the bank. And that opened the doors, and the masses realized how special bait finesse is and how much fun it brings back to your fishing. And that thing, I mean, the biggest issue with the Corrado bait finesse is stock. And now they've solved that, but there was almost a year and a half that they were completely out of stock. It was incredible.
It's almost stopped the entire momentum of the BFS train, bait finesse train here in the States, because there was no reels to go with the rods.
Yep. And then last but not least is the Aldebaran BFS. And the Aldebaran, we've talked twice now in this video about that split between Americanized BFS and JDM. The Aldebaran is very much JDM. So super refined, insanely light, incredibly refined, the ability to throw the lightest baits. But again, we're not trying to dump the spool with this. This is taking those super light baits, being in this situation and pitching back up under that tree, making perfect little casts and getting fish out from around cover. And it is so refined and so good at that.
All right, we successfully made it through. Guys, we got all sorts of bait casting reels out here, and we just want to kind of run through the different brands, the different standouts, and the different price points of each brand. And hopefully we did that for you guys. We know there's a lot of confusion when you're shopping online. You don't get to actually hold these reels in your hand and feel, you know, what does this reel feel like versus that one. So I just kind of wanted to walk you guys through that and hopefully save you guys a little bit of money next time you're online shopping and you don't get to hold these in your hand at your local tackle shop. So
all right, we are going to keep these videos rolling 7 days a week. We are not done yet. We're headed back into some more baits. We've got a few more videos for you, so we will see you bright and early tomorrow morning. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and we'll talk to you soon.